Hello, and thank you for contacting Wave Support. I see from your clinical request that you have a patient who previously wore the MVP multifocal lens, and it sounds like they had pretty good comfort, and now switching to the Wave multifocals, they're struggling with an end-of-the-day comfort. Your patient is also desiring a little bit better near vision. Well, let's talk about the lenses for a moment. First of all, the MVP lens, if we kind of review that lens a little bit, I believe it's a non-toric back surface that's has 4 zones of aspheric curvature on the back surface. So it's basically a back surface aspheric lens. And my understanding is that it also has more plus added on the anterior surface out here in the peripheral part. So with that said, my guess is that that aspheric design was probably giving a little bit more comfort. Well, if we think about that lens being essentially a non-toric lens, if you notice, you designed yours here in the G-SIM design, and if we kind of switch your design over to more of a non-toric back surface, you'll notice right away that you get a little more edge standoff or a little more edge lift, and so probably a little more tear clearance. So my guess is that switching to the new design, we're probably getting a snugger fit out here in the corner, maybe not enough tear exchange, probably reducing the level of comfort later in the day. The fact that the lens is aspheric, the patient's previous lenses are back surface aspheric, are probably giving a little bit nicer alignment across the whole cornea, so therefore I would probably try to get these lenses a little bit more aspheric. So being a back surface 4-zone aspheric, it probably has quite a bit of asphericity across this back surface. So what I might recommend, if you're looking to try to mimic some of the success of their prior lenses, I mocked up a little bit of lens here. What I did was I just took this OZ and just brought it a little bit smaller on the back surface, redesigned that lens. I tried to make it a little bit flatter so that we get a little bit better tear exchange. Then I even use this little Aspheric Tool here, and if you haven't used that yet, that helps put a little bit more of an aspheric back surface on the lens. And aspheric back surface will probably flatten that lens up a little bit more, so it'll probably create a little bit better tear exchange underneath it. I think that'll just help the lens be a little bit more comfortable overall. I will say I've had a few cases through the years where patient's been very successful with sort of an off-the-rack kind of gas perm lens, and no matter what I do with these custom lenses, I just cannot seem to get them comfortable. And I think that's more or less an issue of the patient just being comfortable with a certain design. So I've occasionally had to go back to more of an off-the-rack lens in a few cases just to appease the patient's comfort. So with that said, if you make those fitting adjustments, I think you'll be a little bit more successful with that lens. Now if we talk about the power of the lens, or the bifocal, I noticed that you set this distance pupil right around the pupil size of the patient, and that's kind of what I would do also. The fact the patient's getting nighttime glare really tells us that this pupil is probably too small for that patient. So your only real choice there is to make this pupil larger. And usually in those cases I try to, using my clinical impression, a gut instinct look at the patient's pupils, I usually start out about a 0.5 millimeter, or even in their dominant eye go to a millimeter larger than that. And of course, if you want more add, the only thing you can do there is to offset that loss of add area, is to bump up this add here. And if you read anything on those MVP lenses, some of the MVP lenses, they would recommend bumping up to as much as 3 add or even higher on some of these patients, just to get enough reading out in the outer zone. So if you're looking to try to create a little bit more of the effect the patient had with their prior lenses, I would increase the anterior optical zone to get rid of some of that nighttime glare, and then I'd bump up the power of the add here to try to get them a little bit more reading when they get down into that zone. Maybe go up to 3 or 325. You'll get a little bit more reading out of that. And then after that, it's probably a little bit more trial and error. Same thing with the other eye. Same thing applies. If I bring that up here, you have your actually a very nice looking lens in general. I think these are nice looking lenses, but again, if we have that late day comfort issue, chances are you're getting some lens seal off here. So I would try to flatten that lens up some, put a little aspheric design into it to try to make it a little nicer back surface relationship here. And then once again, you've got a little smaller pupil here. I'd enlarge that pupil and bump up the add a little bit more. And there's probably going to be a little trial and error with that, but with a couple of those recommendations, I think you should be a little bit more successful with this case. So I wish you well and have a great day. Thanks for contacting Wave Support.